What's up, everybody? Welcome to Shapiro's Rooted in American Crafts. I am Matt, alongside my sister Elena. Hope everyone had a great 2 weeks. Unfortunately, Avery is not joining us today, but we do have a awesome guest that we interviewed, and it's been a fun couple weeks since we last spoke. How have you been? What's going on, Elena?
Survived spring break, which is always challenging with kids and no school, but we did it. So I'm sure if any of you were here last week, you got to see Zoe for a little bit in the gallery, and she definitely made herself known. But no, things are good. Last week was fun. We had a couple different shows going on. Jacob Kelleher was here with his jewelry, and it was really cool to see his entire line. For those of you that missed it, you definitely missed out because his work is incredible. He works a lot in 18 karat gold, sterling silver. He had some diamonds, tourmaline, pearls, citrine. So many beautiful, beautiful work. So we're going to bring in more of his work again this fall. So if you missed out, you'll have the opportunity to see his work again with us in the fall. And then we also had the Michael Mashad Meet the Artist event this past weekend as well. So a lot of you came down to meet him, which was awesome. And we still have his work set up, a big selection of it. So if you haven't had a chance to get down, you still have some time to see Michael's work.
Yeah, and then starting on Monday, I think is that the first? When's the first? First is on Tuesday. So
Tuesday.
so on Tuesday, we will have another trunk show. Ayala Bar. She's the only non-American artist that we have in the gallery. She does all the incredible kind of bead fabric jewelry. There's some paintings, some pictures. It's wearable collages, as she likes to call them. She
Yep.
will be in the gallery, or her work will be in the gallery. She's sending out a really nice variety of bracelets, rings, earrings, necklaces, some really extravagant pieces to a little bit more reserved, simple pieces. So I'm excited to see those. But the real question is, what did Avery do over spring break? That's what I want to know.
Avery went to Boyd Hill for spring break camp. So, for those of you that aren't familiar with Boyd Hill, it's a big outdoor, it's a nature preserve here in St. Pete. So, she was learning to become a junior ranger. So, she learned all about owls and different birds and burrows. And she got to make a big walking stick, and they went on lots of hikes, and she had a blast. They basically run them into the ground, so when you pick them up, they just want to come home and chill for a little bit. But she had a lot of fun. She made some new friends, so I was excited
Nice.
for her.
Well, and we heard how well she did at the petting zoo, so I'm assuming
Yeah,
she did really well out in wildlife, touching the animals and getting her hands dirty. But
she loved it actually. She enjoyed it, so it was good.
okay, nice. So this week, we changed up mediums of who we interviewed, and we were able to interview one of our more local artists, Janet Sams. Some of you have met her over the years. She's been in the gallery a few times. She does the very large wall pieces that are kind of birds or abstract, all made out of glass shards. It's a painted canvas, painted frame out of wood or canvas, and then she'll lay out her glass shards to create her various images. We've had the flamingo, the pelican. We've had some, what's the osprey, and a couple other really extravagant looking pieces in the gallery. We currently have five or six, and she's actually coming up on Saturday.
Yep.
So at 1 o'clock, she will be here, and she is bringing 10 or 12 pieces with her. So it should be a fun show this weekend. But we were able to sit down and talk to Janet and just kind of learn a little bit about her and how she became the artist she is today.
Hi, Janet. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so Janet, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us what you do. Where are you from? A little bit more about Janet.
Okay, thank you. I am from Ohio,
Okay.
east of Cleveland, in a little town of Wickliffe. And I grew up there, right there by Lake Erie. And I went to school up there. So my background is chemical engineer and chemist.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I started with Procter and Gamble. That's who I did my career with. And I've lived in several places across the country, depending on what the assignment was. And when I retired, I moved to Florida and thought, well, what am I going to do now? And I decided I was going to be an artist.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So in between there, I also started my own business of hair salons. And I also taught at the college business classes. I have a master's in business. And I just thought art would be a fun thing to go into. And I've always been creative. As an engineer, you are always trying to think of a new way to make something work, a creative design to do something. But I never realized that that other side of my brain would work. I have had the best fun doing this, okay? And I've probably told you this, but when I make a piece, it's not done until I look away and I look back and I'm like, oh, that looks so good. That's how I know it's done. Yes. So I've been doing this about 10 years. And how I got into glass was I saw some pieces somewhere and I thought, that is just stunning. And I had to have a piece. Hung it in my house and I thought, I've got to do that. I was like, I just gravitated toward it. And I started watching videos and just learning, just teaching myself. I didn't have any formal classes at all in art. And I hope that doesn't diminish me at all, but I think it's pretty cool, self taught. So I started out of my garage. This is so humbling. Out of my garage in Florida, Northwest Cape Coral, we bought this little fixer-upper, my husband and I, JD. And the kids were all grown. They were still up north. And I would back the car out of the garage and I would start working on this on like a Sam's Club folding table. Okay, this is so true. And JD would come out, he'd be like, "Well, don't get that resin on the floor." So I'd have these big plastic sheets, and I just keep making things. And every couple days he would say, he's really a wonderful person. He would say, "How much longer before we can pull the cars in the garage?" Okay. Talk about short-term focus. All right. I said, we're on to something really big here, honey. You gotta get on the train. So anyway, my friend who lived a few doors down that I had met said, "You've got to take this to a gallery." She said, I really think you have something here. So I took it to this little gallery in Matlacha. So I don't know if you've ever heard of Matlacha, but it's this funky, quirky town that's right near Pine Island, the island of Pine, and Sanibel. It's sort of a little causeway spit. It got settled after the Depression, where a lot of people just went and squatted on the land and claimed pieces of it for themselves. It's a really cool place. Anyway, took it to a gallery there, and the lady said, "Well, I'll get back to you." And a couple weeks went by, and my friend came back over, and she said, "Well, are you in that gallery?" I said, "No, she doesn't like me. She never called me." She goes, "Get in the car. Get in the car. We're going back over there." We went back over, and the lady said, "Oh my God, I lost the paperwork. I absolutely want you in here." Yeah, my head was so big I couldn't get out of the gallery. Yeah, so that's how it started. It's pretty cool. Okay, so my medium, I didn't really go into this, but I brought you a couple samples here. Okay,
Oh,
so I get stuff like this, which is a bit of a rondelle, okay? Gorgeous colors. It's filthy, it's damaged. This is how I got it from the glass blower. It's another one, okay? Very pretty, okay?
so you go around to different studios and grab their
Yeah.
pieces that don't quite work. Okay.
Yeah, that's really what I do. And sometimes they give it to me, sometimes I buy it from them. I also use glass from like Goodwill.
Mm.
I use any kind of glass that I can find. And what I look for, like in this case, it's color, it's texture, no texture here, and the shape. So if I used all flat glass, it would be very boring. I've got to have some kind of rounding because the resin will hold anything in place. I could put you guys on the piece of artwork and you'd be stuck there. So I teach classes too, right? And so it was right after, what was the storm? Irma. And I would tell the students, you know, this stuff's not going to go anywhere. The next hurricane will come and you'll still have this piece hanging on your wall. Well, Ian came and destroyed everything. And people would send pictures of the artwork on their wall. "Janet, look, nothing happened to it." So anyway, I use these kind of things. And the designs, You know, sometimes I'll see an image. Maybe like this weekend, I went to Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary, and the birds there were so cool. And I thought, I really want to stare at these and just see how their necks go. And so I'll get an image in my head and I'll sketch it out and I'll work from there. And sometimes I'll see something in a magazine, on TV, whatever it is, an image that catches my eye that I think, I just love that. I love staring at it, and I'll sketch it out and then I'll start to add the glass. Well, the way I add the glass is I have a very large studio, large to me, okay? It's bigger than my garage. Yeah, okay, so it's about 2,500 square feet. And if you can imagine, there's tubs, like sort of like shipping tubs that are full of color. So here's the purple bin, but I didn't tell you there's another 20 of those purple bins. And then there's the pink, okay? So the whole room's full. And since I was an engineer, all my bins are labeled. Okay, so there it is. You think I'd get more creative, but it says blue on it.
That works.
Yeah, it does. So I'll go and pull different bins and I'll have them on the table in front of me. And it's almost like I'm painting, but with glass. So when I make a heron, I'm not trying to work out of one piece of glass. I want a bunch of different ones so I get those tones in his feathers. You know what I mean? And the flamingos, not all one color of pink. And so I'll create it, and sometimes it'll take me a while. So my studio might have 5 or 6 very large pieces that I'm working on, but I haven't found just the right color that I want in a certain spot. So I'll go on to the next one. Yeah. And my husband, again, JD, seems to think I'm a hoarder. But I told him it's not true. So anyway, I get the piece laid out, and then I'll put the resin over it, and then I have it ready. So we have artwork in, I think it's 15 galleries from Michigan and Maine all the way down to Key West. And I do several art fairs, which I really don't like at all. And I know you guys have done art fairs.
They're a
Okay.
lot of work.
Oh my God, schlepping is
Yes.
the word. Okay. So anyway, I do art fairs, I teach classes, and I'm about 50% commission now.
Okay.
So I'm having a lot of fun.
So when you get the glass, you obviously cut it into the different shapes that you need. So what types of tools do you have to use in order to, when you do the feathers, you have to shape them a certain way.
Um,
So what are you doing in order to get the shapes you need?
okay, so I use nippers, which would be the same thing that a stained glass person would use.
Okay.
Okay. They're not sharp. They just fatigue the glass and you squeeze them. They look like scissors. Um, I also use, what would be a scorer and some running pliers when I need a really straight line. Sometimes I'll use a kiln when I have to change the shape of the glass. So there's different ways that I cut them.
Interesting.
So how cutting glass doesn't seem like it's a very safe or easy thing to do. How strong are your hands, and how many cuts do you have on your fingers? I
Look,
mean, it's got to
it's
be
just one,
nonstop.
Band-aids.
just one today. It's only 9 a.m. Okay.
Was it was that
Yeah,
the unexpected consequence of doing the medium that you didn't expect
yes.
to have happen?
Yeah, definitely. And it doesn't bother me at all anymore. My JD again will come in and say, Jan, you've got to wear gloves. You got to protect yourself. I'm like, no, I've been doing it for like 10 years. I know exactly, except for sometimes it does. That's the wrong finger to put up. But it's the shards that get you,
Yeah,
those little,
the little
yeah.
ones.
I've only had stitches once from cutting my leg with the glass as I walked by a bin and I was
Oh,
talking on the phone. That was the crime.
Oh,
yikes.
And I didn't see it until later. I'm like, oh my God, my leg is bleeding. I, and JD wasn't home. He was out of town. I put it up on the table and I called my friend, my leg is bleeding.
Oh my
So I had,
goodness.
I had to go to the urgent treatment and get
Yeah.
stitches, but no big deal.
yeah. So where do you get the glass shards that you showed us earlier? I know you said you go to Goodwill for some. What other do you go to studios down by you? Do you go to studios up here? Do you go wherever anytime you're in an area? Do you try to collect glass from various artists?
Okay, so I get them from all over, as far west as as Washington State, like around
Oh, wow.
Seattle. I get them from Louisiana. All right. I get several from St. Pete's. Okay, Maureen, um, Duncan McClellan, Synergy, and there might be one or two more, but I do get a lot. And I got a tip from the what was that show that had the glass blowers on it? Blown Away.
Blown away.
So I watched that and I'm like, oh, there's one near me. Call him up. It was Rob Stern. So I get it from him too. Yeah. So from
So
all over.
so I guess a lot of people also, in addition to getting your artwork, they're getting artwork from
Yes.
other glass artists unexpectedly, and
Yeah.
that's kind of a cool way to look at the pieces as
It
well.
is. It is. I've got a piece that has a couple of the bottoms of the bottoms of the rondelles. You know how they hang it like that?
Yeah.
And they're really Dale Chihuly-ish. They're not Dale, but I'll say that's where that came from. That's the bottom of someone who blew this cool piece.
Hmm.
So what's the biggest difference that you've found from working at P&G doing engineering, chemical engineering,
Mm.
to what you're doing now?
I think about this once in a while. When I would go into work at P&G, I knew what I had to do. You had assignments, you had all these meetings and stuff, and you just did your work. When you're an artist, you have to be in the mood to do it. I'll go in there, I'm like, I don't really want to work on that piece today. Let me go do something else.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I
it's an emotional thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I create shirts on the side, and there's times where I'll walk and sit down at my computer, and I'll just turn around and walk right back out because I have no creative inspiration going. I have no desire. I just my mind is everywhere, but trying to create the piece of art. So I completely understand that.
That's
So
pretty
then,
neat. I've
so
got to
then,
check out your shirt. I heard you mention it on the last podcast. I watched a couple of them so I could understand, and you mentioned it. I'll check it out.
yeah, I have some in the gallery. So when you're up
Oh,
this
okay.
weekend, I'll point them out to you. And you're coming Saturday at 1 o'clock. What time
I think
Saturday?
I think it's 1 to 5 or
Yeah.
one
Okay,
to
One to
cool.
five.
four.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you retired and then you moved to Florida like most people do.
Hmm.
Were you just bored and then that's how you started doing the art, or you needed an outlet, or what it's easy for people to kind of dabble in their garage. How did you
Yeah,
go from retired life to garage to now you're doing 15 galleries, you have your own gallery plus commission
yeah.
pieces?
I think that I have always been driven. I can remember I flew a plane, right? And I can remember putting an article in the student newspaper that said, I'm going to start my own business, giving kids rides back and forth to school, like, if they lived farther away. And I think I've always been this way. And when I went into business in the hair salons, it was the same thing. I was still working with P&G and doing it at night, getting these things built out with my wonderful husband. There's a positive. But it's like I can't shut the brain off, and I'm very driven. And I guess I get that from my parents, and I love it. I think about right now, my phase is glass, and I love it. I think about it all the time and really enjoy it.
So go back to the plane. You flew a plane?
Yes. Hey, I learned when I was 15 years old.
Wow.
My dad was a recreational pilot, and he took me to the airport for my 15th birthday. This is true. And I didn't know I was going. And we get there, and he said, You're going to have a lesson. I had never been in a plane before, okay, ever. And so I get in the plane, go for this lesson, come back, and I know I was green because, all that, you're not used to it. And he said, How was it? I said, Dad, I just loved it. And he goes, Great. He goes, You're going to get your license and you have to pay for it. So you're going to have to find your job and save your money.
Wow.
It's true. So I did. That's what I did.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It
what's
was
the hardest part, taking off or landing?
landing. My God, the plane takes itself off.
Okay.
Yeah, you just keep the nose down until the wings want to fly and it just goes. The landing, you're coming from 3D down to 2D, you and the ground.
Mm.
And it's probably coming very quickly too.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
And
it's a
then,
lot of fun.
so turbulence is good for airplanes or bad? What I've heard.
Turbulence is bad.
Okay.
It's bad. Wind is good, but
Okay.
yeah. That's why, uh, visual pilots, primarily recreational, can't fly through clouds because those clouds are so turbulent and you can't see where you are that you have to fly around them.
Interesting.
Yeah. I even did an air race. It was all women. And where did I live at the time? It was in South Carolina. We flew out to California, and then we had a 7-leg race across the country. Okay. And
Oh,
you were handicapped by the size of your plane and your engine, and you were flying as a pair, two women. And it was so cool. So each leg, as soon as you took off and you crossed back over the runway, the clock started on you. And every plane had their own weather contact. So we were constantly talking to them, and they'd say, "Oh no, drop to 500 feet because the winds aloft are too strong, blah, blah, blah." There were times when I swear I could see what the people in their houses were doing. We were so low.
So
interesting.
you've done a lot.
I've done a lot. I'm also a scuba diver. I
Is there
know.
anything you're not?
There's a lot of stuff, a lot. Yeah, a lot more ahead, right?
So I guess to get back to your glass, at what point did you realize that your hobby and your passion was I guess a fifth career for you?
Yeah, I'm going to say it was probably about 6 years ago when I couldn't keep up with what was wanted. And I don't like, see, I come from manufacturing. I don't like to get into that routine of, okay, let me make 50 hearts. I want each one to really be coming from my heart, and I have to be careful that I don't let myself go down that path. But I'd say it was about that long ago. And then this is a really touching story. After Ian hit, my sister up north, Susan, she's my assistant. But I don't know if you knew she was my sister. But
Oh,
No.
anyway,
I
So
didn't know that was
Susan
your sister.
Sheehan is
she is.
ah
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So
now
she,
okay,
it,
don't make
that's
sense.
okay. So she lives up in Ohio, right? And it was she called me about 6 months before Ian hit and said, "Hey, I was a school teacher. I'm collecting some credits for Social Security. Do you have any, remote jobs I could do to just finish earning those credits?" I said, "No, I really don't." And see, I didn't know her well because she's about almost 8 years older. So, like, I was still riding my bike and she was off to college, kind of thing. Okay. And we'd lived in different places. But anyway, here's where it gets really touching. Ian hits, and I lost the studio and I lost almost all the galleries because they were all local. And I called her. I said, "I need help." And she dropped everything and has worked with me every single
Huh.
day since then.
That's cool.
Every single day. And she's so smart and so funny. And it's my mother, who's passed away, would be just so delighted. It's such an, I tell my sister, I would take Ian over and over again for this relationship.
That's
Yeah, isn't
awesome.
that nice? I know it gives you like chill bumps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in your studio down in Florida, is it just you that does everything? Do you have anyone that apprentices or helpers, or is it just are you and only
Thanks.
you?
Thanks for asking. So it has grown to 10 employees.
Wow.
Nice.
Okay. So I have 4 high school students. Half of them are art students. The other one are guys who can lift heavy things. Then I have 4 FGCU, Florida Gulf Coast, all art students and digital media. And that's part of the reason why the social media looks pretty good because I've got her, she handles it. And if she doesn't know how to do it, she goes to her staff, her teachers at FGCU, says, "How do
Huh.
we do this?" So, anyway, I've got 4 of them. And then I've got 2 retired teachers. So I've got a great staff. And my goal, besides making art, is to help them move toward their careers, to teach them. I mean, from simple as how to pack a box that has to be shipped to how to speak to a customer. I'm always working with them on professionalism and tasks of their future jobs. And I get a lot of pleasure out of it. I really do.
And I'm sure you're a really great teacher because I remember when we first connected, I got a bunch of emails from you and your sister. I didn't realize it was your sister, and I don't think I really paid much attention to them because your photographs don't do your work justice. So I was like, oh no,
Yes.
I don't think that's the right fit for us. And I remember you just showed up at the gallery one day, and usually when that happens, I'm like, no, no, no. But I like stopped and I looked at your work, and I was like, okay, you've got something here, and you.
Oh,
You have such a great personality and you sell your work well. So I'm sure you're a great teacher to these students that are trying to learn. how
Thank
to do
you.
it themselves too.
I think it was Susan that made me go up there and
Was
do it.
it?
I
Well,
think so.
tell her it was a good move because
Okay.
it worked.
Did you fly or did you drive up
Yeah.
here?
Yeah, really. Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it? I've never owned my own plane. I wish I did. That was pretty cool.
Hey,
Funny.
who knows?
Yeah, that's
You have
true.
10 years of glass that you can, sell
Yeah.
and then go from there.
Hey, you know something? On that trip that I did with the whatever, it's the 99s, it's the women's flying clubs. Anyway, I got my company, Procter and Gamble, to sponsor, literally pay for the entire trip because I agreed to put logos on the outside of the plane and carry products up and drop them off at each of the spots that we'd be getting out of. Yeah. And one of the things they bought was a GPS. Now, you think that's really common. It was when they first came out and they were only in a plane. I'm looking at this little box thinking, what does this do? And we're flying over the Ozarks. And the person I'm with said, it's right over the top of this mountain. I said, they can't be. Well, the GPS says so. Sure enough. Pretty
That's cool.
cool.
So now the canvas or the base of your
Yeah.
wall pieces, is it
Yes.
a canvas? Is it wood? Is it
It's
both?
sometimes I have to use canvas when I don't have wood available, but I much prefer the wood.
Okay.
It
And then
really makes the picture stable with that resin on it.
so you paint it, you paint the
Yeah.
wood frame, then you seal it once with a resin, and then you do the glass on top? Or what's the process
No,
like from
no.
beginning to end?
Okay, so it's acrylic paint on the surface of the wood or the canvas, then it's the glass, then it's the resin.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes I'll put a couple coats on depending on how much I'm trying to hold, but usually it's one coat.
So there's no glue, like each individual piece isn't glued down until the
No,
resin is coated on top of it.
that's correct. Sometimes there might be a fish with an eyeball, and I think, that eyeball's going to roll around when I put that resin, so I'll glue that, but
Okay.
only things that roll around.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is.
So now, how did you come up with your style? Because there's nothing else out there. And Elena and I go to a lot of shows, and
Yeah.
most people borrow other people's ideas. I'll say it nicely.
Uh-huh.
And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of artists will get inspiration from other people, and I have never seen anything like your work.
So there are other glass artists out there. Okay. And what I tell people who are learning it now is you can steal from all of them. Don't just steal for one. And at some point you've got to develop your own style. Don't just be a copier, be an artist. And so that's the advice I give to especially people in my classes that I know want to continue. And so I think it's a compilation of lots of stuff I've seen and forcing myself to say, I'm not going to create it like they did it because I'm not going to be a copier.
That is amazing advice that I think we'll have to share with a lot of young artists, because that's
Yeah.
the very first podcast we interviewed our mom, and that was kind of her message as well. Is she makes what she wants to make. She'll look at magazines, she'll see whatever the latest trends are.
Mhm.
However, she stays true to herself and wants to really be unique and not be like everyone else, so that your work really stands out. And I think you've done an amazing job of creating a very unique piece, and people clearly love it too, which is nice to see.
Thank you. I really try. I really enjoy it.
And I have one last question, then Elaine, if you have anything else, you can jump in. How have you seen your work evolve from 10 years ago when you first started to today when you just cut your thumb?
Oh, okay. So my sister calls me one day. This was a few years ago. She goes, I have good news and bad news. She goes, the good news is the thrift store is half price on Wednesdays. She said the bad news is your piece is over there.
Oh no.
Oh
So I had to go buy my piece back. But it was only $10, so it was a really good deal.
That's humbling.
It really is. Oh yeah. So when I look at my old pieces, I think, oh boy, no, there's no depth of skill here. See, back then I was just learning how to cut the glass. So you're just in skill building. Now I'm past that. I could do it without even looking. And now I can feel I can feel value coming out of me, like beyond the basic skill. I'm trying to pick a word for it, but it's got depth to it now.
Yeah, and I think that's with the layers. I think that's the biggest thing that it's. And I'm kind of looking at your pink flamingo right now, and it's subtle. It's the kind
Yeah.
of the gradient from, I would say, pastel pink to really deep pink.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
it does make a difference. Because if it was all that one color, you would just be staring at almost like a flat piece. So I can definitely, I see
Yeah,
what you're
you're
talking about.
right. And I tell my students, don't just pick one piece of glass. Then it looks to the buyer or the viewer of, oh, she had one vase that she used. We want a lot. It's almost like being an artist with paints. Like, you mix it up so it's got, texture to it.
Does JD work, or is he retired now?
He's retired. I met him at the Jif Procter and Gamble plant, peanut butter,
Okay.
and over a over a tank of hot peanut butter. Is that romantic or
How
what?
romantic was it?
Honest.
Was it creamy or was it crunchy?
It was creamy. Oh my God, it was love at first sight.
That's
Nice.
funny.
Anything else that you want to add, Elena?
No, I'm really excited for you to be here on Saturday. This was great to kind of learn a little bit more of your backstory, and I think it'll give, people listening just a little bit more insight into how you do what you do. So, thank you again for joining us.
Thanks. It's nice to talk to both of you. I admire your gallery and both of you.
Well, I hope you all enjoyed getting to learn a little bit more about Janet. Just a reminder, she will be here this coming Saturday, which is March 29th from 1 to 5. And she is bringing a lot of new pieces that we don't currently have in the gallery. So there'll be some new options for you to see. And one thing that she mentioned is that she is open to custom pieces. So if you have been looking at her work before and you have an idea and you want to come talk to her, Saturday would be the perfect time to do that. She's really great to work with. And if you kind of give her some general ideas, she can usually help um, bring your vision to life. So definitely make a plan to come out on Saturday to meet Janet from 1 to 5 and check out her awesome work.
Yeah, and if you don't have questions about glass, but you have questions about flying, scuba diving, chemicals, hair salons,
Yeah.
hairstyles, Janet seems like she can answer a little bit of everything for you. It was fascinating to just kind of get to know her beyond her glass, and just her past is fascinating, and how she's dabbled in so many different things. And it's yet just another artist that we have in the gallery who kind of started as a hobby and
Yep.
kind of created a business out of it. So if you have the creative eye and kind of a uniqueness to your work, you definitely have a chance to create something pretty impressive. Yeah, and I loved that, when she said what makes her different is she doesn't want to be a copier. She wants her own work to stand out. I can definitely, I respect and appreciate that. So I think that was kind of the highlight of the interview for me when she gave that advice to any young artists out there listening. Is definitely borrow inspiration, but create your own ideas.
Yeah. You don't want to just straight up copy. You can be inspired by, but put your own twist on things. So,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and Janet will be in the gallery on Saturday from 1 to 5. Come down and check her out. Beach Drive is hopping, so definitely get here early, get a place to park, go grab some lunch, walk around, or Uber downtown. It's easy to do, but definitely try to figure out a way to get down here. We will be open from 10 to 10 on Saturday, and Janet will be here from 1 to 5.
Yep.
We also, if you can't make it down, we'll be posting some of her work on our social media, so definitely give us a follow there. Shapiro's Gallery on Facebook, Instagram. We don't have TikTok yet, but I think it could be coming soon. I've started adding my special touch to the social media pages, so you might see me out there doing dances or whatever the latest trends are. Who knows? You never know. So you give us a follow and check us out. And also, tell your friends about this podcast. Shapiro's Rooted in American Crafts. Make sure you subscribe to it on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. You'll get alerted every time we post a new episode, and we're doing it pretty much every 1 or 2 weeks. We're putting a new episode out. Things were a little hectic last week with both trunk shows, so it we skipped last week, but we have one this week. So Janet, thank you again for coming on. And then also mark your calendars on April 5th and 6th. That's Main Sale Art Show weekend as well. Um, Sarah Graham will be in the gallery. She is a jeweler that a lot of people know and love. Sarah's going to be in the gallery on both Saturday and Sunday. She's taking over 2 or 3 jewelry cases, so she'll have a really nice variety of work and a really unique collection. So come and see it. 18 karat gold, cobalt chrome, diamonds. She also can create custom pieces for you if you have stones that you want your own work, or you want work for your own stones. She can do that as well. So definitely make sure you schedule a time to come see Sarah as well, and that will be April 5th and 6th.
So much
What
going on.
else?
So much going on. Yeah, so just a reminder. So Jana is here this coming weekend, which is March 29th. And then starting next week, which is April, we have the Ayala Bar Trunk Show for a couple weeks. And then April 5th and 6th, Sarah will be here. So much going on. Lots of fun things happening. So definitely come downtown, stop by the gallery, check it all out, and meet some artists.
Sounds good to me. I guess we'll sleep at some point.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. But as always, thank you so much for all your support throughout this year and years past. And with what's the next holiday? I guess Mother's Day. Is that the next thing coming up? Or Dad's birthday. So if anyone wants to come in and buy our dad a birthday gift, you can do that as well. That's mid-April. And I guess Mother's Day and then Father's Day. So if you need any special gift for any special person, we
Graduation
have
gifts.
Yeah, graduation. We have a lot of new work coming in daily. Some really awesome blown glass just arrived. They're really cool vases. We have these some new fused glass night lights and decorative pieces and bags, and have hand towels and home decor, and we have a really unique selection right now. So definitely come on by the gallery, see all the brand new artists. I promise, if you haven't been here in 2 weeks, you're going to see 2 or 3 or 4 new artists that you haven't seen before.
Yep.
We've really made an effort this year to bring in new and different to kind of keep the gallery fresh for everybody. So definitely come on by, and hopefully we see you on Saturday. But if not, hopefully we see you soon. Anything else we want to add, or is that a wrap?
Nope, I think we're good.
All right, baseball opening day is tomorrow, so we will give you our thoughts probably next week on the Rays season. So, as you know, we love our Rays here, and it's going to be a little bit different of a season, but I'm excited. Baseball is back, hockey's in full swing, so sports are going to be taking up the little bit of free time that I have. So, if you want to come in and talk sports, come find me. As always, this is Shapiro's Rooted in American Craft. Thank you so much for all the support. And until next week, or maybe the following, who knows, we will talk soon. Have
Bye.
a good one.